Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kinda hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending now. Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternate Ending, where we're discovering good movies one bad movie at a time. I'm your host, Carrie Jarasinski, and today I'm joined by not only film critic Tim Brayton, but also I'm joined by our friends from the AE community because this is a live show, and I'm excited about it. Welcome all to the show. This week we'll be sharing our picks for our top 5 movie flip-flops, or just flops. Not flip-flops.
Just flops.
Just the flops.
Flip-flops would also be a list, but it would be a different list.
Fair. And I'd like to get there at some point. But thanks to Patreon Kellison Dale, we'll be doing our best here. So get excited. We'll have folks jumping in throughout the episode here and there to share their own thoughts and perspectives and questions. So if you think that our normal episodes are a little chaotic, expect just more of that, I would say. More chaos to come. So really, really excited. Again, thanks all for joining. So before we jump in, Tim, I was thinking about you this week, and I was thinking about how the last couple episodes have been bombarded with all of my life's disasters. So this week, I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to pull something out of Tim here. And this is what I do for my kids at dinner. I say, when we sit down, what was the best thing and the worst thing about your week? So I'm going to throw that to you. What's your best and worst?
Well, I'm not remotely prepared for that question.
I know.
Nothing. It was a bad week.
You said about apples. What, you went to an orchard. That's fun.
I went to an apple orchard. I don't know. It was the best thing about the week is that I got to Saturday, and I was able to not think about it anymore. No, I guess just the fact that the weather turned nice today after a very wretched, horrible, rainy week here in Madison, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And I bought some apples, and I had apples. I was eating an apple, but 5 minutes before I hopped on this call, in fact.
Wow.
Very tasty apple, a Crimson Crisp apple.
Wow. Okay.
Very, very crunchy apple, very juicy apple, sweet, but with a little sort of undercurrent of like a smoky bite.
Okay. I'm going to have to try that. I love a good apple. Better than a Honeycrisp? I'm
not a fan of Honeycrisps. I think they're too sweet.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to say to that. Those are like the best apple that's out there if you get a good one. But I like them a little extra sweet. So I think that is very good. And I could see that you lit up. So you did have a good thing.
I did. It was a good apple. I also had, I got 2 different orchards varieties of apple cider donuts, including my favorite apple cider donut, which shout out to Sutter Ridge Farms of Madison, or of Mount Horeb? I don't know. Somewhere out there, somewhere southwest of Madison, Sutter Ridge, very good orchard apples.
See, just doubling down.
Apples.
All good things. Now, I hesitate to ask. So if the week was bad, what was the worst thing?
It was a grading week.
Oh.
So it was grading. Grading makes my heart sad.
Okay.
So that would be that. What about yourself? What was the best thing that happened to you this week?
Oh my gosh. I got to tell you. It's if you could see my face right now, you'd know I was still wearing my makeup from yesterday because I had to get really, really, really done up because I went to see Taylor Swift.
Okay.
The show.
So what was the best thing that you saw this week? That was what I was asking, not the worst thing.
This was the worst. Are you not a Taylor Swift fan?
No, not at all.
Like not even her music?
I think her music's bad. I don't like listening to it.
What about her personality and her face?
She is the only celebrity that I think is actually a lizard person. I find her terrifying.
A lizard? What is a lizard person?
Well, a lizard person. I think she lacks humanity.
Oh my gosh.
In her heart.
You're literally the only person that thinks that. You and maybe a couple other people that are reacting to your comments here in the in the Zoom. But I mean, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. I'll actually side with you there, but my kids are, and all of like anybody who's like a 12-year-old girl and like in that range is. So they went all out and they were like, we have to get costumes that represent like a certain era, like one of her albums. Oh my gosh, it was a whole thing. We had one like head to toe, like dressed up in I don't actually know the eras. Maybe a midnight era, maybe a lover era. I don't even know actually any of them, but yeah, they all dressed up, and they were at first I thought it was going to be a huge disaster because they said that I had to dress up, and they picked out my outfit and they ordered it, and it turns out that it was meant for a small child, but then that's all I had to wear. So I had to wear this like blue sequin romper meant for a child on the way there, but it was too late. I didn't try it on until 15 minutes before we had to leave, of course. So Could
you not have worn people clothes and therefore have worn something that appropriately covered your body?
Then I wouldn't have been in theme. So it was kind of like a catch, like, what do? I was stuck. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to roll with it because everybody's going to be dressed up and it's going to be fine. And you're not going to be like that ridiculous. Like you'll be ridiculous and you can kind of see your butt cheeks, but like nobody will notice. And we're in Wisconsin. So everybody's, whatever. No one's going to care. So we get there. The girls are pumping me up the whole way. They're like, you slay. You're so cool. Like, what a cool mom. We pull into Flick's Brewhouse, Tim. Nobody's dressed up. Everybody's in like sweatshirts and jeans.
I mean, the problem is you went to Flick's Brewhouse. If you'd gone to one of the nice like Marcus theaters, then maybe there would have been some parties going on. But you went to get a beer and a hamburger.
Yeah. And everyone had sweatshirts on. I got offered like $50 to go home with somebody on the way in because they just assumed I was a night crawler or whatever. I don't know. And so still, this is the best thing because what I will say, even though this was horrifying and I'm still very embarrassed at what I was wearing, these kids were just like losing their minds with how happy they were. They were dancing in the aisles. They were singing in the aisles. Like everybody was just having such a good time. So I just want to say, Carrie, you did mention that you were not going to be able to check the chat on this Zoom. And I sort of said that I'd be able to without getting too distracted. Yeah.
And I do want to thank Rob for sharing the outfit you wore.
Oh, what?
In the chat, which I hope this will be going live on our social as well. My question is, Carrie, when you sat down, did the Vice Squad arrest you? Because it looks like you have about a half a centimeter of clearance before that is indecent exposure.
I'm like not 100% like sure if you're being honest right now, but I'm still not going to look, but I'm horrified right now.
It appears to be whatever the part of your thigh is that's above your thigh is where the dress seems to end.
Oh no, he did send the picture. Rob, this is not okay. This is not.
Rob, this is great. I want you to be part of our podcast again, Rob. This is what I'm saying.
It's not ideal. And I wasn't nervous, but now I suddenly am. Find a way to delete that or find another place to sleep tonight, Rob. But I'm going to not let that fluster me. And I'm going to move forward onto the worst thing.
The worst thing that happened?
The worst thing. You're just going to, like, I can't wait to see your face. Literally, I do feel sometimes like I'm on the Truman Show. Like I'm Truman. Or wait, who was that? What was that guy's name again?
I mean, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, yes. I do feel like sometimes I'm Jim Carrey. And Rob can attest to this. So I came home a couple nights ago, or I was driving home from work a couple nights ago. And the car in front of me, Subaru car in front of me, I like look at it and it looks like the bottom is coming out of the car. And so I was like, oh man, that's a bummer. I wonder like if this guy knows that the bottom is coming out of his car. As he takes off from the light, I realize it's not the bottom of his car. There's a gigantic trash bag that's stuck underneath the base of his car. So I'm like, oh man, that's bad. Well, as he takes off, the trash bag flings at my car. And I'm like, oh no. So I look in the rearview mirror. It doesn't emerge. So I'm like, oh, great. And this trash bag is full. This is a fully loaded trash bag. So I was like, this is disgusting. But I was like, what could it possibly be? whatever. So I keep driving. I kind of am doing like quick start and stops because I'm like, oh, I'm going to like shake it off. And I was like taking turns and like trying to hit bumps and trying to get rid of it. So I'm like, how could it possibly still be attached? So I pull into the driveway, into my garage, do a quick peek under. Oh no, it's still there. And I was like, oh no, like there's zero chance I would touch that. I assume immediately that there's a dead body in there, roadkill. Like it's got to be something really bad is what's running through my mind.
Okay.
But I kind of forgot about it. I was like, I get kind of distracted easily. So I kind of forgot about it. I ran into the house and forgot about it for a couple hours. And then as I went to go leave to go take Alice's friend home, I was just knocked back by this just like horrendous smell. It's like horrendous. So I go back into the house and I was like, Rob, just to let you know, I ran over a full trash bag. I need you to deal with it. I'm going to need you to go get this trash bag. I'm like, what could it possibly be? You know, like, so Rob goes out there, he pulls it out. I just like hear this audible, like, like he's just like, whatever. This bag, I run over a bag filled with poop, a poopy dress. It's like a dress covered in tons of poop. It's like
human poop.
Yeah, it's human excrement all over, filled in this garbage bag. There's like chiffon popping out of it, and it's all covered in poop. And I just like, what? Yeah.
What is the story behind that dress?
I don't know.
I mean, like, I'm sorry for you, but I want to know what history got us to this point.
I also want to know the same thing, but I also am just like, is somebody watching me? You know, like I'm just like, these things just don't happen to people, but they happen to me all the time. Like if there was going to be something in that bag, it was going to be poop. Like it was
like I was expecting it was going to be like carcasses or something. Like you ran over a bag of dead possums or something.
Yeah,
It's so much worse.
I don't know. Possums are really gross too. Like I really wouldn't want.
Yeah, but that would just be like sad. That would be confronting death. This is not sad. There's only grossness in this story.
Yeah. And I don't think
only disgusting.
It is only disgusting. And based on Rob's like expression, I don't think it was like super solid either. You know, like I don't think it was like, you know, so we'll let Rob discuss in the chat right after after putting out pictures of me. I don't even know what he's saying to any of this, but this is all
nothing
all
is being said. I think everyone in the chat is probably just muted and walked away from the computers at this point.
Everyone's left at this point.
A luxury I do not have.
This is true. This is true. And I'm going to just quickly take this opportunity because I can't see Rob's face to let him know that I do think maybe that there's still some of the bag trapped under the car and that you need to go look because every time I drive.
Did you not take the car through the fucking car wash?
No, not yet. This just
it has poop on it.
Poop on it. Poop, but it's also like I kind of am getting this burning smell every time I drive the car now, and I haven't.
You're getting burning poop.
That's what it smells like. It smells like burning poop. So, Rob, I'm gonna need you to handle that also. But I didn't want to tell you.
Take it to a car wash.
Yeah, we should do that. It's that's on our list for the week of to-dos. So
get it done. Like let's make this a short recording and do it tonight.
And just go. All right, Rob's
Your
like,
car has feces on it. It is toxic. Your car is a toxic site, Carrie. I
am not going to disagree with you. And again, Rob, add this to your list. This is something I do need you to handle. This is a man duty, pun intended. Pun intended. Hey. So, nevertheless, again, real big divide on the big best and worst for me this week. But
yeah.
Nevertheless, I'm glad we both had some ups and downs, but more ups than downs. So anyway, I needed to tell you that story. I've been thinking about you all week. I wanted to share it with you. It is a lot of story, but...
Wait, how long ago did this happen?
A few days ago, maybe.
And you haven't taken the car to get washed?
When I said when I said a few, I really meant several. So it's kind of like gross now that you're saying it out loud. But I feel bad about it. But we're gonna.
It's not even your poop.
I know.
It's some strange person who poops on dresses.
Yeah.
Has his poop on your car.
I know.
Or her.
Her.
Poop, I shouldn't
unknown.
judge.
Who knows? We don't know.
Poop.
It could be any gender poop. But We'll explore it a little bit more. It's still in our garbage, so I'll have Rob dig into that as well. But nevertheless, again, as I mentioned, we are here to talk about our top 5 movie flops. And Tim, I had a really hard time with it this week, so I'm really curious to hear the criteria you used because I struggled a bit. So I'm going to throw it to you. What criteria did you have to establish your list?
Well, I wanted the movie to have flopped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it had to be a flop.
A movie about fish.
It had to be a movie that lost money.
Okay. But there has to be more to it than just money.
So I went through some of the films that have lost like a sizable amount of money. Movies lose money every year, but like movies that are sort of legendary for having lost money, or movies that are such great, wonderful masterpieces that it's sort of impossible to comprehend how they lost money at the time. And then I ranked them in a sort of like weighted ranking of how much money did it lose plus how much do I love it, to get a kind of like flop plus good as we get closer to number 1. So the ones closer to number 5 are not necessarily the movies that I like less than the movies higher up on the list, but they're a combination of how much I liked them and also how much money they did lose.
Okay.
So the more money a movie lost, the likelier it is to be high on my list.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. I think I did it somewhat similarly, only like flip-flopped a little bit. Also, pun intended. But like I struggled a little bit because we have done an episode around box office bombs. So I didn't want it to just be like these big.
Oh, did we?
We did.
I don't remember that at all. I might have a lot of overlap. We'll see.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to find out. I don't have any overlap, that's for sure. But as we thought about that one, it was like these massive, massive budgets, and then what's the deviation between how little it made? Like that was really the only criteria. So I wanted to make sure I was differentiating. And I also, again, spoiler alert, our newest Patreon.
Oh, well, I wasn't part of the show yet when we did box office bombs.
Oh, well, good. That's good for you. Still, you had a more in-depth criteria, I think.
I need to listen to that show because Rob's number 1 top box office bomb was Zootopia, which is a movie that made a lot of money.
Huh.
Like Zootopia was a major, major hit. So I need to find. Oh wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. This old-fashioned format. We formatted them differently back in the day. Okay, this makes much more sense.
Okay.
This makes more sense.
This is a spoiler alert to Tim. We have our newest Oscar patron, Josh Lawrence, has also requested top 5 personally anticipated but disappointing movies. So I'm also like, I have that in the back of my mind too, of like trying to sort of not target in on those as well. So I did the same thing as you, where I sort of did a cross section of like negative reviews meets financials meets critic reviews, and then I sort of like personally had to think negatively about it as well. So it's
I'm exactly the opposite.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We kind of did like
these are all movies that I love.
Oh, these ones are so bad that I have.
Interesting.
So I'm curious. I mean, it's like the flip, like where I was like, I use that same matrices of like using personal feelings, but I just have the opposite. I have the flip flop of it. So it's perfect. It's perfect. But I'm telling you, with those criteria, it made it really, really hard. Because really, like, some of the ones that I thought for sure I'd look out there and be like, oh, everybody hated this movie because it was terrible. And then I'd look out and it was like 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, what are people even saying? Like, this movie was so bad and lost so much money. And then it would have kind of a decent review. So it was kind of hard to find the cross section of all of those. But yeah, I struggled there a little bit. And then I struggled with things like movies like Idiocracy or The Big Lebowski or movies like that where, you know, I think they were considered financial flops at the time, but sometimes they would pick up, you know, speed later. You know, they'd get like a crowd, or what do you call that? Like a cult following later of people that loved the movies. And so that can't be a flop. Like people, they're beloved now, you know? So I just sort of, I don't know why, I just had a hard time with this one, but I did come up with 5. And I expect to have will have zero zero
I
overlap.
cannot conceive that there will be any overlap in these.
I can't either.
Honestly.
All right, well, let's just jump in. Where are you at with your number 5?
So my number 5 is a movie that I think is sort of very well known for having been received during its release as a particularly just like disastrous movie. Didn't like tank horribly at the box office. It actually its box office totals, it cost $15 million to make, and it made 19.6. Now that sounds like it actually turned a profit. It doesn't. That kind of margin's not nearly enough for a film to have made its budget back when you factor in promotion and theater cuts and such like that. But it didn't do very well. Critics did not like it. It was regarded as very much a critical failure at the time. So it was sort of known to have been a film that people didn't want when it came out. And within a generation, really even less, probably within 10 years, people wanted it very, very much. And it was regarded as a quintessential genre film. I think is still to this day regarded as one of the great genre films of the 80s. And I am referring to the 1982 film The Thing, the second adaptation of the novella Who Goes There, in this case directed by John Carpenter. One of his, I think we would now say one of his best movies. At the time, it was regarded as sort of this very like just disgusting, grotesque exploitation failure. And yeah, I mean, that's basically how it got there. And again, sort of weighing in how floppy was it? This was not floppy. Like it lost money, but it's not a humiliation, I wouldn't say. Came sort of close-ish to turning a profit, which nothing else on my list did.
But you like this then?
So, I love this movie. Okay. Again, I love all 5 movies.
Okay.
Like I cherish all, because that to me was like sort of what I deliberately didn't frame it this way because I wanted to see what direction you went. To me, top 5 flops is basically synonymous with movies that flop that I still think are very good.
Okay. And I think my top is the most floppy, I think. But
so have you seen The Thing, Carrie?
I think I have. Again, Rob's here and he can't even tell me, but I think I have. Is this the one where the wolf comes out? Are there wolves?
Yes.
And it's winter?
Well, there's sled dogs. They're not quite wolves.
Oh,
but
yeah.
There are, yes.
And there's a blob. Is there a blob in it somehow?
There's a sort of blob-like
thing.
There's a monster that has blob-esque character.
Yeah, I've seen it. Obviously, it's really stuck with me. That's
clearly
that's what I remember from it. But I didn't know it was considered a bomb. I think I thought everybody loved that movie. So.
Oh, everyone does love the movie, but at the time it didn't do very well and sort of really kind of killed a lot of the momentum of John Carpenter's career for a little bit there, and he had to kind of regroup, make some safer movies for a little while before he could arguably never pick back up. But no, it was not a hit. It was certainly not a hit.
All right. I think that was one of the first ones I saw with Rob when we started dating. We always liked those romantic movies to really bond.
And it is terribly, terribly much so.
Terribly romantic. Almost as romantic as my number 5. It's terrible. I can't even believe I said that because it's a terrible movie. That's not romantic in any way. It's actually one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I really hated it so much. So I shouldn't have said that. But this movie flopped for so many different reasons. It flopped because it was a remake that should never have been made. It was covering content it probably shouldn't have been. I think the original one, there was all of this upheaval about too, because I think it had a lot of problems in the way things were represented, I think as well. On top of it, the director, I believe, also was like canceled, like right as the movie was coming out, because all of this really terrible stuff that he had done to women had come out. So this was just like totally set up to be a flop. So naturally, I, of course, didn't know any of this at the time. And so I asked my mom to go see it with me at the theater. And I was like, oh, this will be fun. Let's go check out this movie. Like, it's supposed to be good, I guess. So my mom and I went to go see this, and the theater had like 4 people in it because I didn't know it had been canceled. And people were told not to go. They were like, don't go to this movie, otherwise you're a terrible person. And my mom and I are just munching on our popcorn, like not even really like thinking anything of it. Then it's a totally traumatizing movie. It's awful to watch. All these terrible things happen. And then to make it even worse, the movie ends and the light comes on. We're sitting amongst like 7 or 8 like liberal Madison hippies that are all white. And they start like a book club. Somebody like pops up and they're like, now what do you think about this movie? And this is 2016's Birth of a Nation. And then you have like these, like, again, white old people being like, this is how I feel about slavery. And you're just like, how do I leave? But since there were only like 6 of us in the theater, we just had to like sit through it. And it was just so cringy. I just still get like uncomfortable feelings when I think about it. But I think like with all of the, it also had Army Hammer. Let's double down. We didn't know at the time, but just a whole bunch of whammies against this one. And again, on top of it, it was rough to get through. Tough content. So did you ever catch this one?
I did, yeah. I thought it was mediocre. I didn't think it was terribly good. I feel like this does not in any way meet my definition of a flop. But if it meets yours, then that is.
You don't think if people are like if people cancel a movie that it creates a flop? If people are like don't go see it?
If it translates into box office.
Yeah, well,
to me, flop is a strictly financial category.
Okay. Well, and that's why this is a hybrid. This is why there's like 4 or 5 metrics for me here. This just really peaked with the cancellation. But this one I think had a budget of $9 million and made 15. So it made a little bit back. But
it sold for a lot at Sundance, which I think it probably did end up losing the distributor money for that reason.
It did.
This was going to be Searchlight. I think it was Searchlight. This was going to be their Oscar push.
Yeah, I know.
This was absolutely going to be the Oscar push. And then Nate Parker got canceled, as you say. And the thing is, it got rapturous reviews out of Sundance, and then by the time it hit its wide release and that had happened, it got negative reviews because critics can't think for themselves. It's not a good movie. So the Sundance critics were the ones who were wrong, not the ones who were wide release. But
it sounds floppy to me, even the way you're describing it. It sounds like it could have been better. So, and that's why it's at number 5. It's going to get more floppy as we go, so you'll have to see. But that said, bring us in at your number 4, which is our possibly only overlap that we might have.
I doubt it.
Oh.
Unless you don't like this movie, in which case I might have to stop being on this Zoom call.
Right, give it to me.
This is the quintessential example of a movie that everyone thinks is a beloved classic, and we share it generationally. We cherish this movie. People who were around when this movie came out just didn't go see it. It made no money. It made money, but it didn't like turn a profit. It made very little cultural impact, although it did get some very high profile Oscar nominations. It just sort of didn't hit with audiences. Lots of movies don't hit with audiences. But in this particular case, because it didn't hit with audiences and the studio that distributed it basically didn't care, it entered the public domain very quickly. They never bothered reserving the rights. So it became very cheap to show this movie on TV. And because it was very cheap to show this movie on TV, it got screened yearly, maybe multiple times a year, as part of a beloved holiday tradition. And then over the years, during its decades of sort of finding an audience that way, it went from this movie that nobody really cared about to a movie that everybody thinks is like one of the quintessential Christmas movies. I'm referring to 1946's It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, boy.
Which was a film that cost about $3.2 million, made about $3.3 million, definitely represented a loss for RKO, the studio that released it. And here we are. And it is maybe the central example of a Christmas movie for, I think, many, many, many people.
Do you know?
Not including me. Like, I have other Christmas movies I like better, but this is a very swell movie. It's a wonderful movie.
I know. Every single year you tell me to watch it, and every single year I lie and I say I'm going to watch it, and then I don't, and I still haven't seen it, which is
eventually.
Someday I will. I think I'm afraid now. I've heard it's sad, so I'm like, I don't know. Everyone.
It's not. It's sad before it becomes happy.
Let me ask you if this is what happens, and if it's what happens because it's what I think happens, then I'm never watching it. So does it turn out that at the end it was all a dream and someone's dead?
No.
Okay.
No.
Would you lie to me?
I don't even understand where you got that from.
I thought maybe like somebody like
Are you thinking of Jacob's Ladder?
Similar, only at Christmas. Is it Jacob's Ladder at Christmas? Is that's what, or Sixth Sense at Christmas?
It is not even vaguely that thing that you just said. No.
Okay. All right. Well, I will. I'll give it a
no
try.
One, no one dies.
Oh.
I'm trying to think of any. I'm sure, like at some point, because it spans like 30 years, so I'm sure some character at some point is reported to have died off camera. No character we form a meaningful relationship dies.
I thought Jimmy Stewart died for sure. I thought he was a dunner.
At the very much. The point of the film is that he does not die.
He does not die. All right. Well, you know what? I feel a little bit restored.
So it is that he wants to kill himself, and an angel intervenes to say, "Jimmy Stewart, you don't want to kill yourself.
No, you don't,
because it's a wonderful life."
Yeah.
And so he decides,
not
"Oh gosh, I guess I don't want to kill myself."
Is that what he says?
So
Does he say it just like that?
That's a verbatim line of dialogue. Famous line of dialogue on the end of It's a Wonderful
I'm not going to kill myself anymore. Okay. Well, that's, you know what? I like movies where people don't kill themselves. So I actually might give that a try.
Most of my favorite movies, nobody kills themselves.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm putting it back on the list.
And we're coming up. It's mid-October. We got Christmas is in a mere 2 weeks.
It's true.
2 months.
It's true. It's sneaking up on us.
Halloween's in a mere 2 weeks.
This one couldn't have made my list, though, because this is in the Big Lebowski category of like, it was a flop, but obviously it's like beloved now, so I can't call that a flop. But I understand from your criteria that
and this would not make your list for many reasons. It's beloved now. It got a Best Picture nomination. I think it also got a Best Director nomination. So like at the time it was regarded as good. It just audiences were not interested. And I think there's always been a sort of assumption it wasn't the right movie for the era directly after World War II. Like there was just people needed something that didn't make you think the way this makes you think. I think was sort of what people have always assumed.
All right. Well, different one for me at number 4, but similar statement I would make is this movie makes you think that you know what you think, but you don't know what you think, and I don't like this movie because of that. Because I think that's exactly what you just said. I had so much rage and confusion all wrapped into one watching this. I think this movie is so, like, I don't want to like say bad words, but like, I think this movie is so stupid. Like, I just hate it because I think it's like trying to be cool and like inventive and cerebral and all of these things, and like it got so wrapped up in doing that it was so confusing and literally nobody made sense or didn't make sense to anybody. And I genuinely believe that like people that went out and they were like 5 stars, 4 stars, like giving these like really high ratings to it, also didn't know what was happening, but they were just trying to be cool.
Is this a movie that I gave 5 stars to, Carrie?
I don't know. I don't think you liked this one either. Actually, maybe. I don't know. But it had a budget of $200 million. It only made $58 million.
Ooh, that is flop and a half. That is proper flopping.
Proper flopping. I am using domestic numbers to help boost my agreement with you. But audiences, again, said that they liked this. This is the one area where I was like, man, no, you didn't. You didn't like this movie. You don't even know what was going on. And this is from the guy who did Inception. What was his name?
Oh, boo on you. I love this movie. This is my favorite one of his movies.
Wait, it cannot be this one. Which one did you like?
This Tenet is legitimately my most watchable Christopher Nolan movie.
I hate this movie. You don't know what happened. Right now, you're right now in that group of people who's like, oh, it was just a time warp. It's like, we don't know. I mean, what are you even doing in this movie? I think he was...
I find this movie to be fizzy in a way that not a single one of his other movies is fizzy. They're all kind of leady.
I like leady then. This is like Christopher Nolan doesn't even know what's going on. He's like, I'm just going to keep sending him through this little booth and then they're going to pop out on the other end and we'll see what happens. Like nothing felt consistent in any way. There was no way to unpack this while you were in theaters. And I just walked out feeling enraged.
I have seen it twice now and neither time did I have the slightest difficulty following the plot, but
you did, and you don't know it.
I don't care what you're feeling. You cannot harsh my buzz with this movie, which I just rewatched actually in the run up to Oppenheimer, and I was like, is it his best movie? No, the technique's not the best. I think the digital cinematography gets ahead of him or away from him a little bit, but I think it's his most fun, and he doesn't make fun movies, so him making a fun movie is nice.
Oh man, didn't he do? He did Inception. That was fun.
Inception's not fun. I don't find Inception fun. I find
It's
Inception kind
so
of boring.
fun. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. It's twisty. It's fun.
It gets to be fun. The first half is to me not fun.
Does he do Interstellar too?
Which is excessively not fun. I think it's great,
gosh.
but it's not fun.
I love it when your kid is going to die ahead of you because of time.
I mean, I'm sure
change.
you love that. Like, that probably gives you a great deal of comfort.
That's right. So sad. It's such a good movie. How many stars did you give this? Just on one other side note.
4.
Okay. Just 4 too high. Well, yeah, that is my number 4. Tenet. I stand by it. Still think it's a big flop. But nevertheless, go to your number 3.
Because that's how movies flop, is you release them during a damn pandemic. That's the movie's fault. Right there.
Exactly.
It is Christopher Nolan's fault.
All right. Well, let's go to your number 3 and see if we line up.
Let's go to my number 3. We are now graduating from this movie didn't make a ton of money to this movie was a goddamn catastrophe. My last 3 are all canonical super flops, I would say. They're all bombs. Massive, massive bombs. And this is a massive bomb that changed the course of the career of one of Hollywood's most respected filmmakers. The film is 1982's One from the Heart, a experimental musical film directed by Francis Ford Coppola that was to be the grand coming out party for his new production company, American Zoetrope. And he spent so much money. He got so upside down in debt, and Zoetrope just ended up borrowing from so many people. Here are the figures. $26 million.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. box office returns were $636,796 during its initial theatrical release.
Ouch. That hurts.
Like it is a mortifying box office performance. Coppola's career hasn't yet really recovered. Like, we are 41 years after the release of this film, and he is still kind of sweeping up the mess that he made for himself by producing this film.
What's the title of this one again? Because I've never heard of it.
One from the Heart.
One from the Heart. So this came post Godfather then.
Post Godfather, post Apocalypse Now. This might have actually been his direct follow-up to Apocalypse Now. I'm trying to think if he made anything between 79 and 82. I don't think he did. So it's not a friendly movie. Here's the thing. This movie should not have made a ton of money because it's weird. It's prickly. It has this soundtrack by Tom Waits and Crystal Gale, where they have these abrasive, unpleasant songs. So it's very dark. It's very heavy. It's all about this completely broken romantic relationship that is killing the two people involved in it. So the fact that it made no money is perfectly right. This movie shouldn't have. It is a weird niche object for a weird niche audience. But they spent $26 million on it in $1982. And that's really what it comes down to. I'm not actually sure what the critics thought of it at the time. I don't think they liked it very much, but it didn't matter. Nothing was going to redeem this movie for the audiences. It has since been sort of clutched as a cult object for people who go back and find the weird little bizarre hiccups in the careers of famous auteurs, as Coppola certainly is, and just hold them to our bosoms. And I think this is a crazy fun movie. Not fun. Fun's exactly the wrong word. It's a brightly colored, strange, salty, sugary object. It is possibly the Coppola film I enjoy watching the most.
Okay.
But it is certainly a strange shaped object. It's just unpleasant in every possible way. So I don't think it shouldn't have flopped. I just think it shouldn't have cost $26 million, and he should not have leveraged his entire future on it, and he did. And that's what you get.
I feel like he's still doing okay, though.
Work, and sometimes you just end a major career from it.
I think he's probably still financially okay, though. I think he's eating.
Well, he's got the wine.
That's true. Oh wait, he had. Oh,
actually, I think the wine is literally where most of his money comes from.
Is Coppola wine?
Coppola wine is Francis Ford Coppola.
Who knew? Nobody. You're
I
just
did.
you're
I
raining
did.
facts everywhere. Is it any good? I think
Coppola
I've
wine?
had that. I don't know. Rob
I
would
don't
have to
actually know
fact
that I've
check
ever
me on
had
that too.
Coppola wine.
Rob will have to drop it in the chat if we have, but it sounds. I'm sure we have. That is.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so this is a movie you would dislike very much, Carrie. I'm pretty sure. Like, I think you would definitely like It's a Wonderful Life, and I would encourage you to rewatch the thing. You would hate this so hard.
Yeah. No, I feel it. Even the way you're describing it makes me feel as, as though
But
I would.
I find it to be just an absolutely captivating. It's a mess, but it's a really fascinating
Captivating
mess, I
mess.
think.
Okay. All right. Well, I won't add that one to the list.
Rob says, of course we have. They serve it at most theaters.
Oh, is that that's why I know it. Rob always does it. I refuse to get wine at theaters. It's like a principal thing. They always tell you.
I want to keep my brain sharp. I don't want to dull my mind with alcohol before I'm about to watch a motion picture.
Oh, that's not why. I just think that they do really weak pours. It's like, that's not
Well, they
5
probably
ounces.
do.
Yeah.
And they very well might water it down. They're movie theaters. They're the same people who charge you like $700 for 2 cents worth of cola syrup.
Yeah, exactly. And Rob just buys into it every time he gets that Coppola. Yeah, drives me nuts. But
3 beers at the Taylor Swift movie, Carrie?
hey, what is happening here, Rob? This is okay. I did have 3 beers. Just get out
I mean,
of the
to be fair,
chat.
it's 3 hours long, so that's a beer an hour. That's
Yeah.
that's pacing yourself. That's fine.
Exactly.
It'd take me more than 3 beers to get through 3 hours of Taylor Swift.
Exactly. And I normally don't have 3 beers, but we also weren't going home after the theater. I had to get changed in the car back into my sweatpants because we were going to a haunted house over in Mount Horeb. So we went
I have
there.
a question for you, Carrie.
Yes.
After the Taylor Swift movie,
Yes.
were you so messed up that you pooped in your dress and you drunkenly ripped it off your body and shoved it into
Shoved it
a
under my
garbage bag and
car.
tried to throw it out the window, but it stuck under your car, and you then made up this weird cockamamie story to hide your shame?
I wish that was true. I wish that was
I
true.
do too. That would have been such a better story.
I know. I wouldn't put it past me, honestly, though. But no. But now Rob's thrown me off by calling out my alcohol consumption. But nevertheless, I did. I'll say it. I did have 3 beers, but I was with we were hosting like 10 kids.
It's a goddamn long ass movie.
That's right. We were hosting so many children.
You probably didn't even get drunk. 3 beers in 3 hours.
No, I was solid, and Rob was driving. So, nevertheless, I am going to jump to my number 3 before we head to our break. This next one for me, Tim, I think you hated. I'm pretty sure you had to have hated it. I can't even imagine a world in which you would have liked this movie. It had such. I still am traumatized by seeing it because I had such high expectations going in. I loved this book as a child. I loved it so much. And I just I had high expectations. I thought it was going to be good. The budget for it, I think was around maybe like $100 million-ish for it.
Okay.
And it made 33 back. It gets an audience score of 26%. People didn't love it. And I'm going to throw something out there. If I get hate in the chat, edit it out, Rob, later. I am not an Oprah fan. I don't know what it is, but she gives me weird vibes. And so seeing her in A Wrinkle in Time was one of the worst movie experiences of my life. And I hated it so much.
I think this movie just sucks. It just sucks so much.
So bad.
How much did you say it made?
Well, I'm giving you domestic numbers to state my case, but it made 33 million domestically, and it was 100 million to make.
Because I thought it made more than that domestically. I know it was a disaster. I know it was just a major, major failure for Disney. So no questions there. No, this movie's dreadful.
It's dreadful and didn't make any sense. And I felt like they went so over the top in terms of the special effects of it and the CGI, whatever they were doing to create this world, that you just lost total sight of what was going on. It just didn't make sense. The whole thing didn't make sense. And you didn't care about any of the characters. It was just sort of visual overload, but the visuals you were getting weren't good. So
it's a film that was given to a director who does not have anything resembling a background in effects movies. And it is almost entirely animated. There's so many effects in this movie. And that's just not a smart thing to do. And yet there we have it. And the film just completely fumbles. It's very, very expensive visuals. It's horrible.
Agreed. Well, this is the first one we agree on, which is exciting. for all of us.
I mean, we sort of agreed on Birth of a Nation.
Sort of, yeah. You liked it more than I did. Because I know you like that director and all you mentioned. So
He's one of my favorites. I have a pillow on my bed that says "I Heart Nate."
I think you do. But we are going to head to a break. So we'll run through that. But before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. You can join Patreon, get early access to exclusive content, make us watch a movie, and more. And you also, we want to say thank you to our Patreons who are celebrating their anniversaries with us this month. We have Nick Evans, our very own Brendan Klein, Brendan McAllister, Paul Solpis. I think every time I say their name, I say it wrong. Nathan Tabak, Mike Garbo, Laurel Hose, Zach Ross, Tristan Frayling, Stevie T. Oh, Avatar, you're on today, and it's your anniversary month. And I hope that I say, every time I say your name, I always get this cringe of I'm going to say it right. So I hope I did. And also Carl Beasley. Thank you guys all so much for your support.
Big month. Thank you, everyone. It's a big
month. And now is kind of the time in the show. Like I said earlier, we're on a live show. We're going to head to a little bit of a live version of Tim Sack. And so this is the point in the show where I point in the show when you trot me out like a trained monkey. That's right. And I freak out as I try to open the chat. That is a photo. Rob, you are, in fact, the worst. And I open up the chat to see if there's anybody that has any questions that they want to throw out. So you can throw a hand up or throw a question in the chat, whichever you prefer at this point in the show.
A nice, simple question with a nice, straightforward answer. Tim, you're the world's only fan of F9. Not true. The person I saw it with is the other fan of F9. You're the world's only fan of F9. Why didn't you see Fast X? The city of Madison, in its infinite wisdom, changed the bus lines in early June, making it 4 times harder for me to get to see movies. And that, coupled with writing my dissertation, plus the fact that the movies that came out this summer just looked bad, I just kind of didn't want to go see movies anymore. And this is why, those of you who are keeping track, I am now in week 9 of not having reviewed a new wide release film on the website. That will hopefully be changing soon. I have a copy of The Nun 2. I'll be watching The Nun 2. That might be the thing that gets me back to reviewing movies. But basically just that. It became too much of a chore to get to see movies. And at some point I'll figure out what to do about that, but that point is not yet come.
All right. Any other questions? Andrew Milne, you want to jump off and ask your question?
Hello, guys. Good to see you. I had a thought just about when you were doing your research for this episode. Were there any movies that you came across which you assumed to be flops just based on their reputation or their sort of cultural footprint that turned out did make money? Or the converse, films that you assumed to be big successes but actually weren't in the actual final financial reckoning? The one I always think of is Mad Max Fury Road, which we think of as being this massive sort of global hit. Actually wasn't. It wasn't a flop, but it was actually a fairly tenuous sort of box office success. Did you come across any of those?
I actually did. Carrie, didn't you say that you had to take a couple off of your list for that reason?
Yeah, I think I would lead in with those, like The Big Lebowski. I would have thought, for sure, did well because everybody loved it. And I hear about, if it's a movie people are still talking about today and rewatching today, I just assumed that it was successful. Idiocracy, I had known was, one that people love today, but did terribly back in the day. I'd kind of known that one in advance. But yeah, a few of those. And then again, some of the ones to the flip of movies that I thought, for sure did, really well. Yeah, there was a couple Tom Cruise movies that I saw. Maybe you'll know what they are, Tim, but they were those were real tankers. And I thought, I didn't think he did anything that tanked. And
certainly The Mummy tanked. That's the one that leaps to mind, but I don't imagine The Mummy was on your list.
The other, I can't tell you my next thing I would say because then it's going to ruin my next pick.
Remember, she's going to be The Mummy.
I was about to just go into it, and I'm like, oh wait, that's my next movie.
Go back to this story after you share your next pick. For my end of things, the one that really caught me off guard, I thought Blade Runner I thought it was a much bigger failure. It did not do gangbusters, but it did enough box office that I actually took it off my list. I initially had Blade Runner in my number 5 slot. And when I actually compared what it made at the box office to what it cost, I was like, this movie didn't embarrass anybody. Nobody got fired for this. Like, this is just kind of like, oh, well, we tried it and it didn't quite do what we wanted it to do. Because it has a reputation of a film that just like went nowhere and then it got recovered on home video. I think it made 45 million off of a 30 million budget. So like nothing great. No one's like popping champagne bottles over this movie, but I thought it did very, very poorly, and it certainly did not.
Good.
So that's probably the one that I ran into in my research.
Good question. Any other questions for Tim Sack? All right. Well, then we will roll on. We also want to thank all of our supporters who get their purchases through alternateending.com, through our Amazon banner. All proceeds that you purchase through that make our show better. I'm going to jump out there. Ooh, more tea, Tim. I think that's you getting your green tea out there.
I mean, if you see green tea in a can,
I'm always assuming
you
it's
better
you.
let it out.
Oop, this is probably for Rob.
That didn't work. That didn't work at all.
No, it didn't. I'm going to throw out there, somebody's got a headache and I feel really bad about it. It could be Rob. He's had a lot of them lately. Be Cool Cooling Relief for migraines. So hope that's helping. Also, somebody out there, maybe this is also you, Tim. Somebody is out there and they're really, really into monologues. I don't know what that means, but it's like 50 fabulous classical monologues for men.
Oh, that's like for people who are theater, like that you bring monologues to do, not rehearsals, auditions.
Oh, okay.
You have to have a monologue prepped. So I'm sure that's what that's for.
Okay. But there's like many Shakespeare monologues for men, the good audition guides, Shakespeare monologues for young women.
Well, sure. You're auditioning for, The Taming of the Shrew. You're not going to be like, well, I'm a man, I'm going to do Lady Macbeth. You got to get a good, proper Shakespeare monologue for men. You're auditioning for, say, Shrek the Musical. You don't want to bring your King Lear. You need something a little bit lighter. You need to have monologues prepped for all different occasions.
That's true, like contemporary works, which they also picked up. We also have somebody picking up The Case for Humanism. What is humanism?
Humanism is a philosophical position. I will give you the crazy short version. It is a belief that humans are sufficient to have created everything, that there does not need to be any sort of spiritual force in the universe greater than humans, and that also humans are inherently worthy of dignity and living.
Okay. Well, I'm glad they got
it's like humans are all that exists, and that's good, is basically humanism. That's a very, don't yell at me in comments or in the chat, like that's a very simplified version of humanism, but that'll get you there. Okay.
All right. Well, hopefully it's interesting. And then someone is out there really getting some cryoderm. So a lot of it. Cryoderm sprays.
You read about humanism and then you're like, oh yeah, my aching back, all that exists is human, so I can't even pray to God to make my fucking back feel better, so you buy yourself some cryoderm.
Exactly. And I think that's what this person's done. Lots of things that seem linked within this list here today. So again, want to thank you all again for supporting Alternate Ending. And when we get back, we'll have our number 1 and number 2 movie flops. Welcome back. We're here with our number 1 and number 2 movie flops. We're based on Tim's movies list. It's the movies he really likes that didn't make a lot of money, and so they're a flop.
Which I feel is a pretty worthwhile summary of. That's what.
Teach their own. So we're coming in then at your number 2, and
number 2.
Yeah. I'm afraid.
So this is, what was that?
I'm afraid what you're going to have on here. I don't know.
You haven't seen this.
Oh, okay.
You haven't seen this.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So this is a movie that became kind of a shorthand for just the most out of control, insane disaster imaginable. Immediately picked up a reputation for being one of the worst films ever made, largely from people who had not seen it. And there's actually a very prominent example of that, and we'll see who can guess it based on what I'm about to say. There is a Far Side cartoon, the old Gary Larson comic, where he references this movie being terrible. He had not seen it. Later on, he saw the movie and basically publicly recanted the cartoon because he was like, "Oh, it was actually kind of good." And it is pretty good. It is the worst film by the director who made it, but this director, other than this, made so many just top order masterpieces that her worst film could still be pretty damn good, and it's pretty damn good. This is the 1987 mega flop Ishtar, directed and written by Elaine May. Cost $51 million, notoriously only made $14 million back. This is the story of a pair of jackass songwriters who are talentless idiots, played by Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty, who sort of semi-accidentally become CIA stooges in a Middle Eastern country going through a great deal of political upheaval, where they are sort of controlled by a CIA agent played by Charles Grodin, who's a beloved favorite of Elaine May's. This is the film that killed Elaine May's career very unjustly. I think it is just clearly not the case that Elaine May deserved what this film did to her. Great filmmaker and a pretty damn funny movie. The problem is that it doesn't make any sense for this film to have cost what it does. Even when you watch it, I think it's just really hard to see where that $51 million went. And I think that's really sort of why it became so notorious. It's not like one of those big spectacular, like, we spent so much money to make these visual effects good, but then nobody wanted it sort of things. It was we spent all this money basically by setting it on fire sort of things. But the movie itself is delightful, really, really good comedy about two morons slapsticking their way across the desert. And there we go. There's what's on my list.
This is Ishtar. Okay, I feel like I remember you talking about this before, and I remember putting it on my
probably have talked about this
before. Avoid list. I feel like when you talked about it the last time. I've got my Tim keep and throw list. Right now I've got It's a Wonderful Life right there on that keep list.
I think you'd like Ishtar.
Really? Okay.
I really think you'd like Ishtar.
Okay.
It's silly. You like silly comedies, don't you?
Yeah,
do you like silly comedies?
Yeah. That's not what I'm picturing when I think about it, but I think
it's pretty silly.
Okay, maybe I'd give it a try. All right. Well, I'm gonna jump. I'm having trouble with my number 2, so I need you to make a call.
We're pretty deep in the episode for you to still be working on your ranking, but okay.
I know. I had such a hard time with this. So this goes back to Andrew's question that he had earlier around, are there any surprises that you had? And this was for sure a surprise for me, because one of the installments of these movies is one of the worst experiences ever for me. I thought it was terrible. And I genuinely was like, everyone's going to agree with me that this movie's terrible and that no one saw it. No one's going to see it ever again, whatever. But then I went out and looked up the stats on it. It's like, oh, it made $790 million on a $185 million budget. So it's not
a flop.
It's not really a flop.
Not a flop.
But like, it's a flop in my heart. It's like a flop in my heart. So then I'm like, is that enough to like outweigh? Like, is my heart more than like, $500 million worth in my matrices of feelings? And then I was like, well, there's no controversy technically, other than there's a controversy at the end of the movie that's just, it's a terrible choice in an ending of a movie. So then I researched the other installment of it, which I liked significantly more. And that one was a little bit more of a bomber. That one was a little bit more of a flopper. So that one only made $174 domestically, and it had a budget of $294 million. So technically speaking, the one I liked more should be the flop. So then my question to you is, do I go with the one that I love more in my heart, or do I go with the financial flop?
I mean, I still haven't quite teased out your criterion, but I would go with the one that was a bigger financial flop.
Bigger financial flop, man. Well, then I don't like this. I don't want to tell you.
well, what are the two? Give us the two.
Okay, so I went with Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny. Indiana Jones.
Well, Dial of Destiny is a much worse film than Crystal Skull.
Not at all.
It's much worse. It's
It is
much
not
worse.
much worse.
I watched them both in a 3-day span.
I watched them both
I
in a 10-year span. And when I did
Fair
that,
enough.
I would never let myself watch Crystal Skull ever again. I was so enraged by seeing that. Was Marion in the Crystal Skull? No. But
yes.
Oh, she was? Oh.
She sure was.
Oh,
She's a substantially larger amount of the Crystal
Was
Skull.
she? I don't remember her being there. All I remember is that lady with the really severe hair. Is that Cate Blanchett?
Yes. The noted shitty actor, Cate Blanchett.
Garbage. Just total garbage. And then it had that other guy in there. Who's his son? Shia LaBeouf. Yeah. What kind of casting
People
is that?
don't really defend Shia LaBeouf.
Exactly. But you know who wasn't in Dial of Destiny? Shia LaBeouf. Or was
That's
he?
true. But you know who was?
Indiana Jones?
That Phoebe
Waller-Bridges.
Waller-Bridges, is that her name?
Yeah, and I love her. I love her so much.
I loved her up until I realized whilst watching Dial of Destiny that she only can do one thing.
Be awesome. I think you're right. Did you watch Fleabag? Did you see her in Fleabag?
What?
Did you see her in Fleabag?
I did. And she's playing the same role the same way in Dial of Destiny, and it's troublesome to me.
I don't know. Agree to disagree on that, but
so which is the one that you're putting on the actual official list?
I don't know. I mean, again, if I'm trying to actually stick to the rules, I should probably put Dial of Destiny and just leave my heart on the floor. That's probably what I should do, and just stomp around on it with my heel. That's probably what I'm gonna do.
Did you actually like Dial of Destiny?
I did.
If this was a movie you loved versus a movie you hated, I get why that's tough. But so you did enjoy Dial of Destiny.
Okay, here's what I did when I went into it. I was just like, this is gonna be terrible, and it's gonna hurt my feelings, right. And it's gonna break my heart. But it wasn't that bad. And so when I came out, I was like, you know what? This is way better than I could have expected. Is what ran through my mind. It's not that bad. And here was the other thing. I was worried that Harrison Ford was going to feel feeble or weak in some way. And then he pops that shirt off like we talked about, I think, when it came out. And I was like, he's not. He's still 100% got it. So then I didn't feel any sort of sadness watching. I was worried I was going to start to cry in the theater a little bit. And I never cried once during it. So that was a big win for me.
Okay.
So
I'm putting Dial of Destiny down on my list where I keep track of your list.
That's probably the right call.
That's what I'm going to do.
All right. Man, this feels weird. I don't like it. But if I have to be, yes, it was a bigger financial dump. Although
so much.
It
is in the running for the biggest financial failure of all time.
Oh gosh, that's heartbreaking. I did want to justify a little bit around why I thought Crystal Skull actually was so financially successful or made so much money is it didn't have expectations. So I think it was, we're coming in. Everyone is so excited after so many years to see these people again and to experience it. So that's why it was just such a huge moneymaker.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, that's correct.
But then it's because that was garbage, I think people that missed them and wanted to spend time with them again were 50% of them were like, I saw what they did the last time. I don't want to see aliens again. I'm not going back. Again, I'm not in that camp. I went anyway, despite thinking if there's aliens, I'm going to freak out. But they didn't have aliens this time. So I think it's kind of you weeded people out. A dial.
It's a dial. They have a dial.
Of destiny. Yeah. That's more realistic. So.
Is it? Is it?
I think so. So again, put down Dial of Destiny, and I never want to talk about this ever again.
We don't ever have to talk about this ever again.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay.
I feel better that we talked about it. All right, and I'm glad. I do want to call out that friend of the show, Mandy Albert, has joined, and I'm very excited now to share my number one. So much so because she's here. But anyway, we'll get there when we get there.
Mandy's second thing she said in the chat was to agree with me on Dial of Destiny, FYI.
I'm a little less glad that you're here, but I'm still glad you're here for my number one. Nevertheless, Tim, give us your number one.
I feel like my number one was obvious the second that this came up as a topic. It is probably the most famous flop/bomb slash thing that ended a company because of how much money ended slash thing that ended an entire mode of filmmaking in the US film industry because of how much money it lost. This is the legendary disaster, Heaven's Gate, 1980 film by Michael Cimino. Cost $44 million, the entire fortune of United Artists Pictures, made $3.
Wait, it made $3 million.
It made $3 million. It did not make $3, although it didn't make a ton less than that. Legendary catastrophe overproduction. They basically shot the movie and then they reshot it because he didn't like the sets or something like that. Money just hemorrhaging its way out of this production. The film came in at 4 hours. United Artists was like, absolutely not. So they reduced it to like 2.25 hours. That is a cut that is very hard to find these days, but like by all accounts, indescribable, incoherent nonsense at 2.25 hours. The cut that is 4 hours has since been restored, been released. It's available on Criterion Collection. And I think it's not perfect. I think there's a lot you could sort of trim or move around, but just big, massive Western, huge panoply of like America in transition, the story of how the owners are all wicked bad men and we need to fight them and take back what is ours.
You said the title
splashed over 4 fucking hours of roller skating and wandering around the campus of Harvard and all sorts of crazy shit.
Is it Scream? What is this? I don't know what you're talking about. What movie is this?
Heaven's Gate.
Did you say that already?
I think I said that.
Oh, you did. I didn't catch that as a title because I've never heard that. I've never heard of Heaven's Gate.
I thought I said it. I thought I said Heaven's
You probably
Gate.
did. You probably did. And it blended in because I've never heard of it. You said it's like the classic bomb. I'm like, I'm thinking like.
It is a film that ended United Artists. It is a film that ended the new Hollywood.
Okay.
Because it cost $44 million and made $3 million. All
right. And you like it though. You like it.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's a terrific, terrific movie.
Okay. Worth seeing. Everyone that's listening, go out there and
you'll
see it.
hate it.
Hate it.
You'll
okay.
hate it. Carrie, you would make it through a quarter of this movie before you just completely fell asleep.
Okay. All right. Well, won't add that one to the list
Dan in the
either.
chat has countered with his take on the movie is what if Once Upon a Time in America totally sucked? And I don't think that's a what if we need to play around with. I think Once Upon a Time in America is pretty bad, actually, but that's me.
That's you. All right.
But it is certainly not a movie for people who require incident in their movies.
Okay.
As I believe that you do.
Well, if I do require incident, what do I require?
Things happening.
Things happening. Oh, okay.
You like it when things happen in movies.
Sure. No, yeah, usually I do. Yeah, I like a little plot, kind of thing. So
Yeah, there's very little plot
Okay.
in the 4 hours of Heaven's Gate.
Okay. Yeah, I don't
But
think
there
I'm gonna like that.
however, a 20-minute scene of Chris Christopherson roller skating.
Okay. All right. Well,
So-
I'm gonna pass
so-
on that.
I think those two things equal out, personally.
Okay. I think that was a good pick based on the financials there.
I mean, it is the flop of flops. Like, there's no question about the financials. The question is whether or not it's good.
I'm going to throw it to the chat when I'm going to go through my number one right now and we'll see which one's floppier. Okay. So this one's got it all for me. So number one, it's got it all. It's got controversy. It's got feelings. It's got a bad audience score, terrible budget. It's just got it all. And it has what I also wanted of like the anticipation that it's actually going to be really good. Okay. And I'll say I only have sort of seen this movie. My whole family has seen it. They liked it, but don't tell anybody. Just they didn't know about the controversy behind it, so just don't hold it against them. I was like tending to things. We had like a bunch of people over watching, so I was like kind of watching it. I was like really, really into it for the soundtrack. Like when a couple songs come on, I love a good song that like makes me like really pumped up and like excited and like I want to go like run somewhere really fast or like lift something really heavy to like show my strength. And this movie does that for sure in terms of the soundtrack. So there were elements of it I think that were good, but it just got reamed when it came out because apparently Disney, there was like some sort of controversy, and Tim, you probably know about more than I do, about like the movie crediting the government of China for something where many people have been killed. I'm just going to tell you the movie because then you tell me the controversy. This is 2020's Mulan.
You weight controversy in a way that I find literally like I can't even imagine.
Wait,
having my brain work that way.
Oh, wait. So you think there wasn't a controversy, or you think there was?
No, there was. I just don't care. I think it's a bad movie despite the controversy.
Well, I just think that was a component of it. So then people were all mad about it after it came out. The budget for this was $200 million. It only made $70 million back. Audience score was in the tanker. And again, I feel like I actually think, for me, because I sort of like side watched it and I was a little bit into it, again, just because of the soundtrack. You know the song where they come out and it's like, do-do-do, do-do-do, you know that one? Like the big one? Mm-hmm. That one gets me every time. But anyway, I think I wanted to go back and see it again. And then like right after that, I just saw everyone was furious on alternating.com about everything that was happening with it. And everyone was like, this movie's terrible for all these reasons. And so then I just never went back because I was too afraid that I would like it and that it would make me a terrible person. So I never watched it again. But I do remember.
The controversy, I mean, we're 3 years out at this point. I believe it was that in order to make the movie in China, Disney basically ignored the fact that the movie was being shot not very far away from where genocide was happening.
Yeah, and they credited a Chinese province, like they're saying in the chat.
I think it was like shot in the same geographical vicinities where the Uyghur genocide was happening, basically.
Yeah, not great. So again, all in all, money tanker, controversy, boiling up.
To be fair to the money thing, this was again a pandemic picture. It did make some quantity of money from people spending $30 to see it on Disney Plus.
That's true.
And we do not know how much money that was. So not enough to offset the money it lost, I don't think.
$71 million. It made $71 million. But we did rent it on Disney, I should say. So you are not part of the 71. You are part of the amorphous blob of money. Yes.
I'm happy to say, as part of my moral laundering, I spent $0 unless you count the $5 a year I pay for the VPN that I use to pirate shit behind.
Yeah, I know. I meant to tell you.
Movie, Carrie. I stole it.
I think that's great. And I meant to tell you, oh my gosh, Tim. So I didn't want to tell Rob, like, how did you get the movies for that episode that we had to do, the Dragon Balls episode? He's like, how did you get those movies? And I was like, I don't.
We got them at the Getting Place.
Yeah.
To quote No Country for Old Men.
That's what I told him, and he didn't believe me. And then I was like, I tried when I don't want to tell Rob what I really did, but I also don't want to lie. I just sort of mumble sometimes. So he's like, where did you get those? And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I'm kind of hoping he'll just like walk away from the situation. But he's like, what? You know, like where did you get those? I was like, I don't. Oh, actually, Tim lent them to me.
I did. I lent them to you.
Yeah, but then I don't want to tell Rob this, but I just got an alert on my computer that my name is showing up on the dark web now. So I'm like, it's probably from me watching your pirated films on my computer. Now I'm on the dark web, and I'm going to start to get.
That doesn't seem likely because I'm the one who pirated the films, and I didn't. I think you got a spam email.
I don't know.
Carrie. I don't think your computer's not telling you that you're on the dark web. I don't think.
I said my email address is showing up in places on the dark web. So I'm not telling Rob, but
it probably is. Probably all of our email addresses are, because one of the things that happens on the dark web is people try to steal your identity.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. So if something happens, I'm just tying it back to those Dragon Ball movies, though, because that's all it could possibly be. But
I'm just saying, I have stolen things far more likely to get me in far more trouble. Rob, cut this part. The Dragon Ball movies, and I have still stayed one step ahead of Johnny Law.
It would be amazing right now if, like, in your glasses, like there were like flashing.
There's like sirens flashing.
Sirens going.
Whatever. We're a penny any movie website. The FBI is not listening in on this.
No, you've been tapped. No. But anyway, I appreciate you sending those to me. I'm going to continue to use you and not tell Rob. But anyway, that's it. That's our lists, and those were weird. So sorry, Callison, for our
I think mine was very straightforward. I think mine was exactly the list people could have predicted. I am confident everyone knew my number one before we started, except for you, apparently.
I think they probably did. I feel a little weird about mine, but I'm going to process it afterwards.
Yours was a journey.
It was
yours was a personal journey of discovery.
It was. I feel overwhelmed and tired now after going through it, but nevertheless, we're going to throw it out to our audience to see what their top fives were. Kind of similar to us. It was a little bit all over the place. There were lots of ties. Blade Runner came in at number 1, and then it was like a 12-way tie after. And there were some that I forgot about that I just thought, oh, shoot. I will say Valerian was on there. I liked Valerian, so kind of sad to see it out.
I thought about Valerian. I thought about Jupiter Ascending, but they didn't feel like canonical flops.
Yeah.
And I wanted canonical flops.
Canonical flops. Like Cats. The other movie, Cats, that you love, was also on there.
I would not necessarily want to say that Cats is good.
Yeah. Not in a public forum.
Cats is beyond judgments of good and bad.
Even though you've seen it more than once, as we know. Also, they had Hugo, Wonder Woman, which I forgot about. Although I liked Wonder Woman too, so that's also a bummer.
Wonder Woman that made $400 million
is one. I think 1984. Is that Wonder Woman?
Oh, okay. Wonder Woman 1984 is a flop, yes.
Yeah. I liked that. But Sphere was on there. Daddy Longlegs was also there. Showgirls, which I know we've talked about. I keep meaning to watch that. And then, Tim, Tenet. Just want to throw it out there. Also tied for number 2. So someone out there knows what they're doing. Our winner this week was conservative policy think tank, who said, let's do all sci-fi flops. Number 1, Blade Runner. Number 2, Tenet. Number 3, Blade Runner 49. 4, Bicentennial Man. And 5, Dune 1984. Ooh.
Bicentennial Man is a hot and spicy one to say.
That is one
of your favorites out of any collection of movies.
That's is that the Robin Williams one?
That is.
Yeah.
People in the chat are wondering why I didn't mention Strange Days, for the simple reason that I forgot it existed and I forgot that it lost money. Although it did, and it's great, and would have also been a good candidate for a list of sci-fi only flops for the record.
As well. All right. Well, conservative policy think tank, shoot us an email at contact@alternateending.com to claim your free Amazon movie rental. And now I also, again, want to throw it back out to our listeners that are joining us live on this episode. And if at this point you guys want to share your top 5 lists or any reactions to how much you agree with mine, whatever the case may be, I won't push you in any sort of way. Now is your opportunity. So if you want, you can either throw it in the chat or you can raise a hand and share them live.
Mandy agrees with me on Ishtar, which is her first one. Also, Sphere, as you just mentioned, one of the tied for number 2. Hard Rain, The Postman, and Under the Cherry Moon. I have not seen Under the Cherry Moon, but I would love to. The Postman it's an object. It's a weird thing. We know that I like weird things. It's Kevin Costner's post-apocalyptic movie about the mail.
Postman is?
The Postman.
Oh, I actually might like that too.
I'm a huge Kevin Costner. What if not only would sleet and snow and hail not stop the mail, what if the end of all of civilization also would not stop the mail? It's basically the thesis of The Postman.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to add that to the list, to the watch list for sure. Sorry, I'm just reading through a couple other comments. Again, like I told you, very easily distracted. Thank you guys for sharing. So in closing, we want to thank you guys all for joining us. Head out to our social media page, Facebook, Twitter. It's not Twitter anymore. Facebook, X, Instagram. And
it's Twitter. It's fucking Twitter.
I'm not posting there anyway.
All the time.
None of us are posting there anyway, so it's fine. I'm just going to axe that one out of there. And head out to alternateending.com as well to check all the reviews and updates as well. So again, want to thank you guys all for joining us. Want to thank our live participants in the show as well for joining us. We had a great time, and we'll catch you next time.